ever have a chance to mourn your baby?
At that time, no, I didn't.
Because you must have been in shock initially.
Yes.
It was clear and evident. Well, please welcome your attorney, Shantae's attorney, Mr. Eric Lampel, to the show. Thank you, sir, for being here. Because, Eric, it was clear, I'm going to say this as if I know, but it was clear that this baby wasn't shot directly. It was clear that this baby was hit by a ricocheting bullet. However, the police were trying to say that she walked over execution style and shot her child.
Correct.
And I mean, there were forensic evidence that proved that it wasn't this way, but that's still the way they were trying to portray it. Why were they going at this length to make what was a horrible, tragic accident out to be a murder?
They certainly were angry that the family was frightened enough to have to call an attorney, me, to come to the scene. That made them angry. And they felt that if they made this into a contact wound, in other words, muzzle to the flesh, which is clearly harder to imagine being an accident, that then they could charge her with first-degree murder and put her in prison for the rest of her life.
But, I mean, what's the objective? As a grieving mother here, the woman is obviously grieving. She did this by mistake. There are reports already in the neighborhood about robberies, and let's talk about this particular incident. The police arrive at her house within seconds. Why? Because they had just gotten called out because there was a burglar trying to break into somebody's house.
Correct.
So it was clear and evident what was going on. So yep. How did they, not only did they try to say that she tried to kill her child execution style, but what picture did they paint of her and her family in the courtroom?
And in the press, that she was a baby slayer, and that she put the muzzle to the flesh. That's what the detective said on the stand at the preliminary hearing. She executed her baby, muzzle to the flesh. No evidence of that at all. In fact, all the evidence was the other way. This was a ricochet, this was an accident. She was washing the baby's clothes, folding it, she was feeding the baby. They never talked to the pediatrician. Perfect care of the baby, never any bruises, never missed an appointment, never late. I talked to the pediatrician. I subpoenaed her for the trial. They ignored the footprints from the burglar they found on the side yard. They called those non-criminally placed footprints.
What's that mean?
It means nothing.
Some random feet just fell out of the sky.
Yeah, which weren't the match of anyone that lived in the house.
Gotcha. So at the end of the day, this went all the way to a jury.
Correct. As terrifying as that is.
And Shantae, you got to tell me, darling, I mean, what was it like sitting in that courtroom knowing that those people over there are actually going back behind that wall and going to come out here and say that I might have killed my child?
I felt sad. At the same time, I knew I had a great team. My family was a great support system. But I knew at the end the truth is going to come out, and I knew I was innocent the whole time.
Unfortunately, without an attorney like you, these stories don't always end this way. Because I've had people sitting in this chair who've been in prison for 15 and 16 years, and the truth finally came out. I will ask you, though, is that any consolation, the fact that the truth is out? In a sense that, because do you really give a damn what any of us think? This was, you have to live, and I shouldn't say it that way. It's a tragic accident. Tragic.
Every day, I mean, this is my biggest punishment, is not having my son. I have to deal with that every single day. And just the fact how they portrayed me to be this person that I'm not, which was really hard.
I know that you've attempted to not settle this thing, but to take this to court, and so far has not panned out the correct way, but is there any other avenues you can travel for this?
No, I think this show like yours that can bring this tragedy to the public is the only thing, maybe help some other people to that you can fight back and you don't have to accept the negative publicity. The two papers that reported on this erroneously during the pendency of the case, finally some journalist wrote the right story right before the trial, and it was helpful. And we sued them. We sued the police in a civil rights case in federal court, and regrettably we lost that case. We got a fair trial, and I would do it over again if I could. It was the right thing to do. We didn't win it, but that was the end. That claim is over.
I'm sorry for what you had to go through, but this is what we're kind of talking about today. Sometimes you see these headlines in the news, and we hear about, you know, a person who's been convicted or up on charges for something, but you don't know the rest of the story. Take a break. We'll be back right after this.